Hello and welcome back to my channel. Welcome again to my series on the God universe, called the God universe. This is chapter 17. Chapter 17 has two parts. And in this video, I am going to be talking about my daughter's disabilities and proof of the inner being. My daughter's disabilities and proof. This is a long video. In the second part of the video, I will show my daughter before with her disabilities and after, since the solution was implemented. Okay, so this is a very long video. I've got my notes and I've got my tea. I'm going to be talking so much. I need it. I need my tea. And there is, as you can see on my table, there are more props. Some you will recognize from my other videos, and a new one, because again I will talk about a new principle in this video. So without further ado, again, I'm clearing my throat. I really do need this tea. Oh, so without further ado, let's get to it. I am going to read a lot of my information from my notes, just because I want to ensure that I mention as much or give as much description. Sometimes I get too excited and I might miss some parts and some bits, and I noticed this in my other videos when I watched them again. I thought, oh, I forgot to mention this. So for some parts of this, I will want to read my notes verbatim, just so I feel comfortable that I've said what it is I wanted to put out there. So my daughter Grace her name is Grace. She is 8 years old. She's going to be 9 in a few weeks, a couple of months or so. She was born with global developmental delay. That was the term we were given. She had all this complex disabilities, and I'm going to read out a list of some of them, and then I'm going to focus on about 3 of them, which is really what this video is about. So majority of her disabilities were neurological. Okay, so she had ADHD, she had really bad dyspraxia, which is a coordination disorder, severe speech delay, she had this unprovoked aggression, she had an unsteady gait, so if she stood, you'd see her kind of wobbling, you know, like her head wobble, her body would wobble, and her hands wobble. She had really poor fine motor skills. She couldn't write very well, couldn't actually write, period. Draw a proper circle, difficult. She's allergic to peanuts and milk, and she had really bad reflux when she was a baby, and she still has it now. She's got sensory processing disorder. So this is one of the disabilities I'm going to describe, you know, just so you can understand it. Tea. Right, so this is Gracie's sensory processing disorder, right? She touched everything. She'll go, when she had this need to touch things. Anywhere she goes, or anything that she sees that looked odd, or even not even, it doesn't have to be a new thing, but she would just, she just had to touch things, glass, messy play, anything. She just had this need to put her hand in it, right? She jumped a lot. Oh my God, when she was a toddler and she was, before she walked, she used to just bounce. It was like bounce, 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 constantly and continuously bouncing. So we would get things like a trampoline. She also loved the swing. It was like you put her in there and she was happy. It seemed like the swing and the bouncing just kept her happy and content. Honestly, a baby, bounce, constant bouncing, right? She was loud sometimes. Like she wasn't aware of the volume of her voice. It was just like, she was just really loud. She had no awareness. So she had no awareness of the volume of her voice. She had no awareness of her body either. So she walked out of the house naked. She wouldn't even realize that she was naked. It was like almost, there was some sort of a disconnect between like, oh, I'm naked or not. Like I said, she touched everything, which was a problem because she was also like a bull in a china shop. She would just like move around and just things just knocked over. When we go to people's houses or friends' houses, I was always very mindful of what they had lying around. Some people had really nice, ornate glassware, vase, and I have to go and I'll tell them, okay, we're here. Is it okay if we move these things out of the way? Because I know Grace is going to touch it and Grace is going to break it. She's just very destructive. It's like anyway. Yeah, she touched bull in a china shop. That's Grace. And obviously, because she moved her weight around, she would use all of her weight on top of you with no sort of controlled measure of it. She just didn't understand to use a little bit of force or a lot of force. She just always used a lot of force all the time. Okay, she chewed everything. Here, this is chew toys that we've gone through so much chew toys, right? There's that one. She just goes through them. The black rope that you see, the black string you see, to put it around her neck, because she would just drop it. She would drop it on the floor. She pick it up. She put it back in her mouth again. So for sanitation purposes, I go and look. There's this one. Hey, so I was just saying this is my favorite, but look, this was actually up to there. She's chewed it to this side. You know, this is just one of the cups we have in this house, and can you see she sits and she just chew. She just has this need to chew, and we've just gone through so many things that's been destroyed. Oh, Grace has chewed it in this house. So she has a high pain threshold. So she has a high pain threshold, and she will constantly knock herself against things or knock her legs, her limbs, her legs and her arms on things. Like she's lying in bed, she will purposefully kick the side of the bed, the bed board, which is made of wood, or even with the sofa, constantly kick it. And any regular human being will feel pain, but not Grace. It was like she was craving the need to feel some sort of pressure or impact on her skin, and she doesn't feel the pain, or does she feel the pain? I don't know, but it looks painful. Keep trying to tell her to stop doing, you know, hitting her limbs and stuff. And she'll have bruises along her legs. And you have to explain to school, it's her just knocking her limbs against things. She had this reflex thing as well, that on her legs, that made her kick out constantly. And it's almost like she wasn't even aware of it. She would just kick out. So on a plane, difficult, because she's kicking the chair constantly. At the theater, when we go and see shows, we are mindful of the person in front of her, or we'll hold her legs. Because her legs would just keep kicking the chair in front of her, like on automatic. It's just, it was a reflex thing, like a tick even, you know. And it's not even, Grace herself isn't even aware she's doing this. She sits and her legs just kick out. And it's, as a parent, you look at this and you keep telling the child, would you stop doing it? Because you forget that the child doesn't even know that they're doing it. Okay? So what you can see is me describing Grace's sensory issues as a craving, and this is true. So for some people, their sensory issues is more like an overload, and therefore they don't want any more. So Grace's one is just craving stuff, putting things in her mouth, wanting to hit out and wanting to touch everything. And for some other people, it's the opposite. They don't want to touch anything because it's just too much. They're just overly sensitive to things. So Grace's one is craving stuff. She was in her own world frequently, and it was kind of like it was like she didn't hear you talking to her. So she's just in her own world, or she wouldn't, it's like she didn't hear you or see you or is aware that you're around. So she would be in her own world, like in and out, not all the time. Just, you find that she just ignores you completely. You're talking to her, she completely ignores you. Right, so that's her sensory processing disorder. Right, so that was quite obvious. I want to put this over there. Right, the other thing I'm going to describe is that she had a faulty emotion. Just looking at my board that I hadn't left something on, is that she had a faulty emotion sense. Yes, this is new, and I will describe this shortly, but let me describe what this fault looked like with Grace, what this is as a disability for Grace. So she had a faulty emotion sense. So Grace didn't understand when she'd done something wrong. She had no sense of right or wrong, you know. And when you tell her this is wrong, the next day she'd do the same thing again. You know, it was always like everything was a game. So she had no remorse for things that she may have done wrong. And it's very difficult to discipline kids who don't understand that they've done something that they shouldn't be doing, and who don't feel remorse, like, oh, I'm sorry. Grace might say sorry, but she would say sorry because you've told her to say sorry. So, you know, maybe she'd lashed out on her younger sister, and I say sorry, and this is the action you do for sorry. She'll do it, but you can see that she doesn't really understand what just happened. She doesn't really, and the next minute you turn your back, she'll lash out again. So where was the sorry or the remorse in that? Okay. So yeah, like I said, everything was a game to her. So let me describe this situation. So one of her teachers told me that you know, because she knew it was difficult to discipline Grace, because Grace didn't understand discipline. She was very loud. She's very loud in class. You know, if the teacher says, she was very loud doing something she shouldn't be doing, and she knows she shouldn't be doing it, so the teacher would sort of send her out of the classroom, just, you know, take a moment and just stay there, because obviously the other children in the class are not getting any form of learning, because there's this one kid that's been loud and disruptive. But what she said to us was, so she said she was going to try this new discipline thing where when Grace became loud and disruptive, she would send her out. And what happened was Grace thought this was a game. So then the next day, she was loud and disruptive, and then she volunteered herself to go out, because she just thought, oh, this is a nice game. So like sending her out didn't actually make any difference to the way she felt about the situation. So how do you discipline a child like that? If you can't smack her, trust me. You can't smack her. I'm her mother. You know, smack her in the hand. Grace will be like, ooh, that's interesting, do it again. That's the kind of child she was. Like, and when you think about take motivating things away from her. I mean, my younger daughter, right? All you have to do is give her a look, and that's it. She's upset. Oh my God, mommy's upset with me. This is the end of the world. You know, with Grace, number one, she wasn't attached to anything. Like, she wasn't attached to toys, or we knew she liked playing. For example, she liked playing, she liked slime, messy play. But even if you took the slime away from her, she'd be like, next. So she wasn't attached to anything, not even long enough. She just wasn't attached to things that you could use to remove, you could remove the things that she liked to help with discipline. She just didn't care. You want to take that? From her perspective is, oh, you can have that. I'll go over there. Oh, you can have that. I'll go over there. And then if you do timeout, oh, you'll be there all day, because eventually somebody gets tired, and it's the parent, it's me. Timeout. She sits there like, oh, this is a nice game. So she'll sit, go back. There are some kids, she just didn't understand for her it was everything, it was all a game. And if a child sees something as a game, it's something that they will do, or they will continue because they enjoy it. She enjoyed being punished. How do you punish someone who enjoys being punished? You don't. How do you punish? That sounds quite harsh. I mean, how do you discipline someone who enjoys being disciplined? You can't. It's like, anyway, what else? So I think I was describing the how she thought everything was a game, right? She had no sense of fear or danger, right? So she can go out and she can go outside the house. Any stranger she sees, she just walk up to them. I'm like, hey, where are we going today? She was just one of those kids. She was very trusting, super trusting of everyone. Do I know your name? No, it doesn't matter. I'm going with you. Where are we going? Everything. She thought everyone was great. She thought everyone will be nice, and she thought everyone was great, everyone is nice, and so she would go with anybody and everybody. Anyone that walked through the door, Grace is with them, she's off. No sense of danger. Talk about a car coming down the street, Grace would look at the car like, ah, interesting. Get out of the way, Grace, the car is coming. She has no sense of danger. Right, she didn't cry often, hardly ever. Actually, she was one of those babies that did not cry. Not that she never cried ever, but she hardly cried. And then when she cried, it's like the world had come to an end, which is very, very rare. I'm saying that she cried, but it was very rare. So obviously when she was a baby, we were like, oh my God, there are all these other babies always crying, not knowing that actually not crying as much, the way she didn't cry was an issue. So she didn't cry very much. And so when she saw other kids crying, she would look at them like, that's interesting. So what's that then? You know, she was just curious. She was a child crying. She was just curious, like, whoa, what's this? And then later she learned that when someone is crying, you go over and pat them on the back or give them a hug. So she did the same. Not because she understood why they cried, but just like, that they were upset when they cried, but just, it became learned behavior rather than understanding why they cried and what to do when you see someone crying. She didn't hold grudges. She didn't understand grudges. She was happy. It's like Grace is always happy. Yeah, she's a happy child. She didn't understand grudges. If you did something to upset her, literally the next moment she'd forgotten it. She's your friend again. She couldn't hold grudges, and she didn't hold on to grudges. If you did something and she got upset, when she stopped being upset, you're back to being best friends. So sounds good, but when you add everything up, you realize that there's an overarching issue here. She was very anxious in a social setting, and what I mean by that is, like, when we had the social gathering, people talk, people chat, people laugh. That noise appeared to get to her, and what she tended to do was she always walked away to find some place quiet, because it just seemed to be bothering her. You know, that sort of general crowd noise and crowd vibe. She's a social girl, right? So she's friendly, but in a crowd setting, it's very noisy, and there's this sort of accumulated noise, and it's that seemed to bother her, that she just likes to take herself away. But obviously she takes herself away to another room. She's being destructive in that room, so we have to follow her, eyes at the back of my head all the time. So there is this whole, I said before, she had no self-awareness, and she didn't feel embarrassed. It's not, yeah, I don't think I said she didn't feel embarrassed before. I just said she had no self-awareness, in that you could be laughing at her for being silly, for being stupid or whatever, and she wouldn't understand that. She didn't feel embarrassment. That sort of self-awareness of embarrassment, she didn't feel that. Like I said, she was always happy. And then again, she had moments where you couldn't interact with her. I said this with the sensory processing disorder, I know, but I want to mention it here because I find that they're very related. The emotion side as well as the sensory side, where you're aware of somebody, not because you hear them, you're just generally aware that they're there, and then you interact with them. So Grace, not only would she would not interact with you at all, because she's just not aware that you're there. Can you see? Does that make sense? So anyway, that is the result of this faulty emotion sense. I will describe this faulty emotion sense soon, but let me just stop for a minute. Just describe the faulty emotion sense. Now I want to talk about her learning difficulty. So Grace has a severe learning difficulty, and to help clarify what I mean by this, right, I'm going to describe sort of I'm going to describe the UK school system, right, with respect to special needs, and that would put in perspective where Grace is. So for special needs, children that require additional needs and support in school, and I'm going to put this in four levels or 4 tiers, right? So for children that require additional support in school, you have mainstream schools, right? And let me just check the time that I've got and what I've got left. You have mainstream schools and so you have mainstream schools, standard children go there, but then you have some mainstream schools and in these mainstream schools, you can have a one-to-one support. So you have a teaching assistant that's permanently with the child, and they help the child and they support the child during the class activities. Let's call that level 1. So you have a one-to-one support in a mainstream or standard school, or school that standard children go to. That's level 1. Next level 2, is you have a special unit attached to a mainstream school. And so children that require additional support are all placed in this unit. So it's like a little mini school attached to a mainstream school. And the idea behind this is that these children that require additional support, they are given, this unit will tend to have extra extra support staff. They are much smaller classes, much smaller class sizes, with extra teaching, with extra support staff in it. And so the teacher will go slower with the subject that they are trying to teach, and therefore trying to bring these kids along with them. And in some instances, some schools, they take, for certain subjects, they will take these children out of these units, and because they're attached to the mainstream school, they will take them in for certain classes with the standard kids in the mainstream part of the school. So for some parts of the day, these children that need extra support will join these other children, the standard children, to do some learning in a standard child classroom. So some of these children might need like therapy sessions and additional support. They will do that when they're in their unit, because they're not having to slow down the rest of the classroom in the mainstream part of the school. But in this unit, the children are given the space to do their therapy, whatever therapy they need: speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy. They will get those incorporated as part of the program of that unit. So you have this is level 2, you have a unit that's attached to a mainstream school. And a lot of parents like this because it's like maybe at playtime or at certain subjects, you have your child being exposed or integrating with other regular kids. You know, and the idea is that sort of exposure will improve or speed up the development of the children in the special unit. Okay, so I don't know what it's like in other countries. So this special unit attached to a special school, special unit attached to a mainstream school is level 2. Now level 3, I would say, is full special school, as in there isn't an attachment to a mainstream school of any kind. It's just the whole school. All the children in that school have some sort of disability and additional needs of some form. I'm speaking specifically with learning difficulties. In the UK, you have special schools for autism, special schools for learning difficulties. I think they even have schools for when children have behavioral issues, like they call the schools, I don't know, or even centers. Can you see? So it's like a full special school for Grace anyway. It's a full special school, and again, it's like the unit, but just the whole school is a special school. And so all your requirements for therapy, and they will have more kit. For example, you have more therapy rooms, more sensory rooms, you know, to help the kids. Like the school these schools tend to be geared towards supporting the needs of these children, and they will have more kit and more equipment that's geared towards these children with disabilities more than you would have in a standard school setting. That's level 3. Level 4 is again a full special school, but this is a school for children with complex, severe, and profound additional needs. So, like, down at this level, a lot of the children here, they have either physical disability, or they are nonverbal, or both. You'd see a lot of them with mobility issues, wheelchairs and stuff. So again, these schools are designed to support these type of children, right? So Grace attends a level 4 schools. Grace attends a level 4 school. A school for severe and profound learning difficulty. The thing is, a lot of parents, including me, you don't really want to see your child in a school like this, because it's very difficult to see how you can teach a child with this level of disability. I mean, Grace, she has no physical disability, so obviously hers is all more mental, more neurological. But my point is, when you go and visit these schools, thinking, where can I put her? Where does she fit? And you say, this is the one that's best fit. I went to a moderate school, you know, level 3, and I sort of watched them, and in my head I was like, this school is too structured and rigid for Grace. So went to this other school, and it's like, okay, yeah, here she fits here. Because can you imagine going to a moderate learning special school and saying, there's too much rigidity. These schools don't have that much rigidity, but I'm saying for Grace at the time, it was just, I just thought she won't survive in a school like this. It was just too rigid for her. And so we went for level 4, severe learning. We went there and they were like, yeah, she'll fit right in. And I look around and I think, but a lot of these kids, not most of them, a lot of these children can't even talk. Some of them, as in they don't talk at all. Some of them don't, they have a lot of like physical, like not just wheelchair bound. I mean, we're talking about, is it quadriplegic, you know, and as in can't move at all. And in my head, I thought, it broke my heart, made me very sad because, and parents generally would avoid these sort of schools because you feel like your child will not have any future. You feel like they will not be able to contribute. They will not be able to learn and therefore contribute to society in future. At that age, at the age of war, at the age of 5, 6, you can already see their future as, oh my God, they have no future. What is this? So these schools it just makes you sad. And I was heartbroken. We did so many assessment and tests trying to get her into a regular school, not a regular school, trying to look for a decent enough school, the right fit. And one education psychologist was the first one to mention that her learning was so poor that she was on severe, bordering on profound learning difficulties. I was distraught. I'm like, no, of course not. This is not my Grace. Anyway, so let me stop for a minute. This video is always going to be hard for me, so just bear with me. Oh, good. So like I said, I was distraught. It was just frustrating to think and feel like this is where your child belongs. It was very, very difficult to teach her. I broke down instructions into the simplest and smallest steps, and you have to repeat these instructions. Like, say for example, going to the toilet, right? For regular kids, nobody thinks about this. For regular kids, you want to go to the toilet to have a wee, you go, pull down your pants, sit on the toilet, get up, put your clothes on, wash your hands. But do you know how many steps there are that the brain is working on? It starts with, Grace had to learn, number one, she had to learn to go to the toilet when she needed a wee, and that was just impossible. Like, how do you teach a kid that, look, if you need to go to the toilet, if you need a wee, you need to actually walk to the toilet, and you need to hold it before you get to the toilet. How do you teach that? You tell a toddler, regular toddler, you need a wee, yes, hold it, go to the toilet. That's it, done. But for Grace, the number of accidents we had because she couldn't wait till we got to the toilet. You got past that stage. When you get to the toilet, Grace, you need to pull your pants down first before sitting down on the toilet. Grace will go to the toilet. She sits on the toilet with her clothes, with her pants on. Can you see what I mean by breaking down the steps? So we went through a phase of teaching her, reminding her, using simple words, simple language to say, pants down, repeating it so much that when she goes, the first thing she does is pants down. Okay, she's finished with the toilet. She forgets to it just appears as if she forgets to pull her pants up. You can't walk out of the toilet with your pants around your ankle. But she did this over and over and over and over again. So what I'm saying is we repeated a lot of instructions a lot of times over, and it's very frustrating for a parent, for the family. It's not like you haven't told them. You've broken it down. You've told her about it. And then you repeat it over and over and over and over and over again, hoping that one day it would actually get into her mind. So you see in part 2 of sort of this chapter, how she was before. I took videos. It wasn't really for the God series, but I just took videos for homeschooling, some for homeschooling, some just normal as you do at home. But I just wanted to show you how bad she was at learning. So it's interesting. Coincidentally, we had the pandemic, and therefore I had to do the homeschooling. And I remember doing the homeschooling and thinking, oh my God, it's impossible to teach this kid. From me, that's how I felt. Okay, so that's giving you some idea of how bad her ability to learn was. So that was all still describing her difficulties, and it was important that I focused on those last 3, the sensory processing disorder, the faulty emotion sense, and the learning difficulty. And you see why, I've really spent some time describing Grace's issues. So now I want to talk about the emotion sense, this emotion sense that I've been talking about. So I'm going to just sort of stop and do a time check, and then I'll be back. Right, so now I am going to talk about the emotion sense. The emotion sense is the 6th sense. So we have smell, sight, taste, hearing, and skin, right? The emotion sense is one of our senses, and is the 6th sense. And it is located in the tailbone. I hope you can we see that? Yeah. It is located in the tailbone. Just bring that forward a little bit. Now, this is my diagram of the brain and the spinal cord, and heading to the tailbone, right? So that black line bit there is spinal cord. This red rectangles are like your vertebrae in your discs in your back. Do not laugh at my drawing. I am crap at drawing, so hey ho. So yes, so what I'm saying is that the emotion sense is an organ that is located inside. You see the blue bit there? Is located inside the tailbone. It is an organ just like your eyes and your ears. the emotion sense is an organ that's located inside there. This sort of bigger rectangular, red rectangular piece is a flat piece just above the tailbone, and that's where the connection is. So I am going to put these two diagram up, so blow them up so you can see this better. In this diagram, you can see the coccyx and the tailbone right at the very bottom of the spinal column, the last bone, right? And above that is called the sacrum, which is like a bigger, flatter bone, right? Inside the sacrum is a connection to the connections to the coccyx, to the tailbone. So there's this other diagram which will show a bit better. So you've got the nerves, right, on the right hand side. And if you go look to the very bottom, it's called the coccygeal. I think it's the coccygeal. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but the coccygeal, that's where, and you can see that nerve, there's like a connection to the coccygeal. That's the connection to the emotion sense organ, to the tailbone, right? So what I'm showing you effectively is you have the brain, you have the spinal cord, and then you have an organ below the spinal cord which is connected to the spinal cord. And that organ below the spinal cord, inside the coccyx, is the emotion sense. The organ inside, it's not bone marrow, it's the emotion sense. What I want to say is the emotion sense, this is why I said it's not bone marrow, is that the emotion sense is made of the same type of cells as the brain. So now let me I want to do a quick time check because I can't remember where I'm supposed to stop. Right, okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about type of cells, okay? So where is it? Ooh, bumped my light. Right, if you remember this diagram from chapter 9, right? Quartz crystals, human cells, how quartz crystals are transformed into human cells, and that we make different type of cells, right? You've got brain cells, other organs, bones, and you got muscle fibers, right? So now I want to talk about the type of cells that's used for these, right? The first one is what I call static cells, right? And static cells are used primarily, they are used mostly in organs. So organs like your liver and your pancreas. So your liver and your pancreas and lungs are organs with passageways for diffusion and separation, right? Can you see? So these cells, I call them static cells because it's like they're just like bricks, one on top of the other, and you build a house. Granted, the house is something that's designed with intricate passageways to allow for the exchange of fluid or gas or toxic substances, you know, like in the liver. It's kidneys, these organs, they are made of like cells that they don't do anything but build the house and build the fancy, intricate passageways, right? Static cells. The next set of cells are cells that contract and relax. Open, close, contract, relax. So they're doing some kind of work. And these cells are in your muscles. These cells are the ones for your muscle fibers. These used to build the muscle fibers, right? So these cells, you know, open my hand. Some of the muscles in my hand have contracted. Close it, some have relaxed. Move your arm. Walking is some of your muscles contracting and the others extending to give you that sort of movement motion. So because some muscles are made of cells that do some kind of work. Contract and extend. Contract and extend. Right? And this contract and extend in different configuration allows me to do this, allows me to walk, allows me to have that sort of pincer grip. Can you see? And then some organs is a combination of both. So for example, right, the heart is an organ with intricate passageways, yet contracts and relax, contract and relax. You see? Now the third kind of cells is, the third kind of cell, let me stand here, is the brain cells. The cells that's used to build brain matter. These cells are, you know, again, one level above, and they are I call these ones detect and response. So a little bit more advanced cells, right? And these ones are, I would call them programmable cells, right? And they're the ones that's used to build the brain. So they detect and respond. And what I've got here is if you're hungry or thirsty, the brain has detected that the body needs supplement. Detected that the body needs supplement, and then the brain would respond by sending signals to you to act. So it will be, it will make your throat a bit dry and parched, make your stomach rumble, and then you think, I want something to eat. Detect and respond, right? And then, excuse me. It's the same thing if you want to go to the toilet. The brain detects that perhaps your bowel is full, and then it sort of sends messages to your stomach, and you start to get like funny pangs around your tummy area, and then that's the brain responding, and then you go to the toilet for a poo or a wee. Okay, so that's a detect and response. The thing with the brain is the brain has an overarching management system. Okay, the management system is also made of cells that are also detect and respond. So you have, and I want to use like the poo situation. I'm sure there are better examples, but anyway. So you need to open your bowels, and the overall management system will say, wait till you get to the toilet. Don't open your bowels out in the playground. So there is a management, there's an automatic management system that makes you look for the public toilet somewhere, or wait till we get run home and then find the toilet and do it there, rather than just, oh look, I need a wee, let me just piss on myself. You see that? So the cells are detect and they respond, but these cells have an overarching management system, an overarching program system that says, yes, we know you need, we need to open the bowels or go for a piss, but wait till we get to the toilet, wait till we take our clothes off and perform this task. Sit down, open the toilet lid. These are all like management system by the brain. Again, when there is an infection in your body, your brain will send bacterial, antivirus, antibacterial agent to go to the site and fight the bacterial, and the brain will also increase the body's temperature. Detect and response. The cells that are used to construct the brain is made from this type of cells. Now, why have I mentioned this type of cells? It's because the emotion sense in the tailbone is also made from these type of cells. Where is it? Right? So the brain is made from this detect and response cells. The spinal cord is made of this type of cell, but I think I'm talking about the tailbone. So what I'm saying is that the organ for the emotion sense is made of this detect and response cells, except that it is not doing the stuff that the brain does. It is not like a hormone factory like the brain does, and it is not looking at the activity of the body. It's not looking, this organ is not looking at the activity, the same activity that this part of the brain is looking at and telling the body to do things. It's not doing that. This organ here is specifically looking at emotions, and it is looking at emotions that I'm just checking the time. It's looking at emotions that consciousness feels. It is looking at those emotions, and where have I held this thing? If you remember, in the mesh filter limiter, this is my mesh filter. Do you remember this bit? I said that the outer consciousness, passes through the mesh filter limiter, and you attach to the motor functions of the body in here, right? So this emotion sense is looking at the emotions of consciousness after the mesh filter limiter. It's looking at the emotions of you, of me. It's looking at my emotions. And because it's not just looking at my emotions, it's managing my emotions, or because it's made of this detect. It's made of the detect and response cells, with an overarching management system as well, right? Kind of like the brain. You can, you know, it has a the brain is made of the brain is made of detect and response cells and is programmed with a management system. This organ is made of detect and response, and also has a management system, and it's detecting and responding to emotions. And the management system is also responding to emotions. So basically you have brain cells here that's not doing any of the things that this brain cell is doing, this big brain is doing. It's doing a completely different job. So this organ in here, made of brain cells, isn't doing the same thing as that. And another place where we find this is the heart. I mentioned it earlier. The heart, the heart is made of muscles, but yet it is an organ with intricate passageways for the exchange of fluids, like your kidneys and your lungs. But the actual heart organ is made from contract type cells, but it's not, you can't walk with your heart, you know. It's not the same as, you know, can't pump iron with your heart. You can't do that. It's the same as this. Same organ doing a different job. Same organ doing a different job. And because emotions are complex, we needed to be that same organ that's a bit of an advanced cellular, it's a bit of an advanced cell system to use. So what am I saying? I'm trying to say that emotions, I'm trying to say that the organs that's used to detect emotion needed to be an advanced cell system, and therefore it's using the same type of cells as the brain, as opposed to the same type of cells as the eyes. I mean, the eyes contracts, open to light, you know, responding to light, contract, open, and then you've got sort of intricate passageways. So like this, the cellular construction of the eyes, the cells for that is different to that of the brain, because these ones can be programmable, and it's programmed with a management system. So just like the brain has a management system, this also has a management system. Have I said this already? I might have. I was trying to make it, I should be going slower just to make it a bit clearer. Okay? So when I say a management system, I've just checked the time, and the time is going away from me, so I'll just start again. So when I say a management system, I'm talking about, obviously, this is probably beginning to click for some of you. I'm talking about detecting emotions within yourself and how you respond, and also emotions in others. Detecting and managing emotion, not managing emotion in others, but to be able to understand what others are feeling, and therefore what should be an appropriate response or behavior from you. So you act differently when you're with your friends and peers than when you're with the elders, when you're with your bosses. It's a different behavior. When you're in a classroom, it's different to when you're in a playground. These are different emotions and behavior that we exhibit within ourselves. We know how to act based on the situation. We know when to be rowdy, and we know when to be quiet. And then also, we know what others are feeling based on their behavior. So when they cry, we know that they're upset or hurt about something. And so we would have appropriate response to that. We would go and give them a hug, or, you know, pat them on the back. Because we understand what that emotion is for us, we have an appropriate behavior to somebody else. We know that when someone is very happy, they laugh, they smile, they jump up because they're excited. That tells us about their emotional state. So that's the emotion management system kicking in. So in which chapter was this? This was the learning chapter, knowledge sharing. And remember Eve, when I said Eve was the first woman first human to be made, constructed on this earth. I said that she was made first, and she was around for a significant period of time before Adam joined her, because pure consciousness, and she could communicate with pure consciousness, and pure consciousness were doing sort of like a commissioning, call it commissioning, you know, doing tests, doing appropriate test for with her to see that things are working. And one of the biggest, what took the longest time was emotions. So it was things like, you know, in programming this management system for emotions, like, are you happy? Yes, but you can't tell that you're happy because, of course I'm happy. You know, it's, so consciously decided, let's have some physical expressions to help communicate emotions. That way we can tell how others might be feeling from either their behavior or their physical expressions. So that was included in the management system, in the emotion sense management system. So I hope you understood that. All that I've described is the emotion sense, the emotion organ, our sixth sense. We have a sixth sense, and we didn't even know about it. We have a sixth sense, and a lot of us choose to ignore it. In fact, actively ignore it and brush it as this is too feminine and girly or something. It's like if someone said, you don't have eyes, oh my God, you don't have eyes, you can't see. Imagine not being able to see. And yet we have an organ that we've been using for thousands of years, and we didn't even know this organ existed. Right, let's talk about fault or a defective emotion sense, okay? Just like the eyes, I'm going to use the eyes as an example because we're familiar with that. If you're blind, right, if the eyes isn't working properly, it is either the organ itself, or the connection to the brain, or perhaps the way the brain interprets the information. Can you see? Organ, connection, or the way the brain interprets it. The emotion sense is similar. Ooh. Should I stand here? The emotion sense is similar in that the problem could be the organ itself, so the bunch of cells that form or construct this. The problem could be there. The problem could be this orange, this red rectangular bit, this big red bit here. Or it could be the connection. This is the connection to the brain, the connection to the brain here. Or the problem could actually be consciousness, light energy writing to the DNA. So this issue could be compounded by let me find it. Whoa, that's gonna fall off in a minute. So, if you remember this defect, this DNA situation that I talked about, which chapter did I talk about DNA? I think that was chapter 8, right? Which you could in fact see how this could have been a problem in the formation of the cells of the organ, right? If you didn't form the cells properly. So this line should be identical to that line, but instead of phosphorus here, you get carbon. This was an example I was trying to describe, that I described in that chapter. So if you remember this, it could be that the cells themselves haven't been formed properly. It could also be that consciousness, remember I said consciousness, light energy, if it's restricted, then it writes. Consciousness light energy is like an ink that writes instructions to your DNA, and if that light is restricted, then you're writing information to DNA with a restricted light, so it's not flowing properly. It's like an ink. It's like a pen where the ink doesn't flow properly. Sometimes some things get written, and then other times nothing gets written. So when you restrict consciousness light energy, the instructions here, I'm saying they are unsuitable instructions. The instructions are unsuitable for the purpose for which it was designed. Okay? You have a bunch of cells that may not have formed properly. Then you have the instructions that write to the cell. This is a cell that is programmed with a management system. Those instructions are not clear because they're half and half, some written, some not written, or they're written in the wrong order. You know, those instructions, because your light energy isn't flowing properly. It could be a combination of all of it. It could be a combination of a defective bunch of cells and a restricted consciousness light energy, or the connections, which would be if the bunch of cells, the connections isn't working properly. Again, that whole system is basically ineffective. That whole system has a fault. I prefer the word fault, because disorder I don't really understand. But this fault to, where is it? this fault to the emotion organ is autism. Autism is a defective emotion organ. Grace had autism, but we were told that she didn't have autism because she made really good eye contact, you know, and she was listening. She was listening to you, so she hasn't got autism. This is what autism really is. Okay, I'm going to talk about the spinal cord. So the spinal cord connects the brain to the rest of the body, right? Your motor functions, including, excuse me, hang on. The spinal cord connects the brain to the motor to the rest of the body, including the motor functions and the senses, right? Eyes, taste, hearing, pressure, all of that. So you put your hand on a hot surface, you quickly take it off. That's the nerves along here on the spinal cord. So the spinal cord is also made of the same type of cells as the brain and the emotion sense, but only at basic level. So the cells that's used to construct the spinal cord is a, what's the word, detect and response cell, but there is no overarching management system on the spinal cord itself, okay? So which is why when I said earlier, you touch a hot surface, pull it back out. You know, that message, the cells have responded before the message has gone to the brain for thinking and responding. This is your fight or flight response here in the spinal cord. These are connected to your motor functions, so they respond even before it gets to the brain. But your sense of danger is also in here. Fight or flight response. You see people running before you've thought about what's going on, what's happening. You're thinking, I'll figure out what the danger is later. I'm off. You're off. Have you ever had that? There's something coming, even before it's registered what the danger might be, you're out of there. Your fight or flight response is from your spinal cord, but that's, although it's using the motor function to respond, it's detecting something in the emotion sense. It's actually the connection to the emotion sense, because it's that fear. It's detecting some sort of fear, and it's responded to it before the brain has registered that there was something dangerous and something to be afraid of. So what am I saying? I'm saying that the spinal column works as it would if someone shines a light into your eyes and your eyes contract. It contracts before the message gets to the brain. It does that with emotions too, and that is your fight or flight response. Can you see? It's detected something even before it's registered, I'm repeating myself. I know, I'm just going to do it. It's detected something and you're off. So that also detects something in here, in the emotion sense. But if the connection is impaired, not there, then it's never going to detect the fear. Remember I said earlier, Grace had no sense of danger? She's like, what's going on? I don't know. Take her time. The connection to her emotion sense is impaired, faulty, afraid maybe, I don't know. And I said as well that this is connected to your senses. And if you remember, I described Grace's, like she will bang her limbs, her legs, and she'll bang her arms, you know, wanting, as if she's wanting to feel physical pain, like, or physical pressure, impact, pressure, because actually pain is just a register of it. But it's like she wants to feel that pressure. You know, the chewing. The chewing. These are all nervous, I don't want to say they are nervous responses, but these are all impaired, faulty connection to the senses. Hearing, sight, smell, taste, mouth, you know, because you taste and then you chew and you eat. That's a sort of a whole sensory thing there. And so she's chewing a lot because she's craving the need to chew because of the faulty connection. The skin, the need to go in a bull in a china shop. I have to touch everything because I want to know how everything feels. It's almost as if you know, you use your eyes to see light, colors, and texture. It's almost as if her need to touch things is because she cannot tell the texture of things by just looking. So she has to touch it as well. It's weird because I think I've only just figured that out. Which is so this faulty connection, impaired connection from the spinal column to the senses is your sensory processing disorder. This is sensory processing disorder. A faulty connection from your spinal cord to your senses. And others, you know, like from Grace's sensory processing disorder is the need to crave. For some people, they're so overly sensitive, they just don't touch me, don't, you know, the music is too loud. For some people, it's like that. It's the opposite to Grace. Okay, so I want to talk about learning disorder, learning difficulties, okay? In chapter 5, I talked about consciousness intelligence and consciousness senses. And I said that consciousness intelligence is inherent. It's inherent to consciousness. It's something that cannot be removed and thrown away. Okay, and I say that intelligence, one of the elements of consciousness intelligence is the ability to learn, the ability to take in new information, to learn new things, to be able to reason and create things as well, right? That was one of the elements I described that was consciousness intelligence. And that this consciousness intelligent cannot be removed and discarded, because it is inherent to consciousness light energy. It is part of the fabric that makes consciousness light energy. It's within there. Okay? And then in chapter 9, while talking about DNA, when I was describing DNA and a defective DNA, I said that when consciousness light energy goes through the mesh filter limiter and infuses the body and writes to your DNA. So consciousness light energy is the ink. Is the ink that writes instructions to your DNA. When consciousness light energy writes to your DNA, a single strand is your physical abilities and capabilities. The instructions for mental capabilities goes across the double helix strand, here and here. So if consciousness light energy, the pen, the ink that's writing the instructions on your DNA isn't flowing properly because it's defective, and consciousness intelligent is within that ink. Therefore, this is the reason why you would have a learning disorder. A learning disorder is a learning disorder is consciousness. A learning disorder is caused by a restrictive consciousness light energy. The pen that's writing to your DNA, it's not flowing freely and fully as it was intended. So Grace had a restrictive consciousness light energy. And that restriction is due to a very reflective mesh filter limiter. In chapter 10, I said that I described the mesh filter limiter, and that the surface here is very reflective, and this part has the hair that took out the sound. When this bit is super reflective, it just reflects most of your consciousness light energy back into the mind. That's what it is. Most of your consciousness light energy is reflected back into the mind, and this is the cause for learning difficulties in general. So let's just to summarize, I've described the significant portion of Grace's disability as being a faulty emotion sense and a faulty or impaired spinal column and a restricted consciousness light energy. These are the three big things for Grace. And solved it. How did I solve this? with the help of Grace's inner being, Grace's inner consciousness, I did one half, and her inner consciousness did the second half. This seemingly impossible thing was accomplished with me, a human being, and pure consciousness. So I want to come back, get a drink of water or something, and I'm going to talk about the solution. So what was this special solution that I used to do the impossible? I used these. These are necklaces that I made following the instructions of my inner being, and Grace wore these for a significant amount of time. These are glass beads and quartz crystals. I'm going to use my phone camera, in case you don't see it very well. And I want to talk about the crystals first, right? So here, in these beads, you find that in this necklace, this ready-made necklace, you find some crystals on it. You find there, you can see there's a watermelon tourmaline, and there is yellow tiger eye, there is citrine, and there is a very small labradorite there. On the table here, I've actually got some crystals that she'd worn, and then she sort of stopped wearing it because she didn't need it. Remember I said crystals are to make her hormones. Right, let's just go through them. And I'm going to read my notes just so you understand what the crystals did. So there's black agate for her dyspraxia, her coordination disorder. And that's that one there. It's just square. So she had that, she wore that for a bit, black agate. And this, hang on, what's this one? Smoky quartz for short-term memory and to steady her gait. I remember I told you about she used to shake had an unsteady gait. I use this. This is smoky quartz. Note the geometry. Don't want it to drop off my hand. Note the geometry of these crystals. Okay. Now this here is this is a bigger one. This is labradorite. Labradorite, a sort of bluish, and this is the crystals that's used to build up brain cell tissue. Okay, so she had a smaller one in here because I'll talk about this later. This necklace she wore together all at once, and so I was really trying to make space for the beads, and I tried to use as small crystal as I could get away with. So these were the ones that she no longer needs, these crystals here. She no longer needs them because the issue is sort of has disappeared, gone away. Okay, so the labradorite is she still used, and then you have the yellow tiger eye, which you can still see in here. I mentioned that earlier. And this is for path. Where is it? There. This one. and this is for pathways in the brain. So it generates neural pathways, roadways for electrical impulses. I used this. This was one of the first ones I used, and as soon as, like within a few weeks, she was potty trained. Okay, in here there is that one there. Hang on. That one there is watermelon tourmaline. Did you say it? Yeah, tourmaline. Watermelon, there's different types. This one is the watermelon bicolor tourmaline. And this one is for speech sounds, to go from babbling to forming words and sentences. And then there's green agate. It's not actually in this main one because I took it off so that we can get this bit sorted. And this is green agate for her thyroid. So she had early signs of puberty and excessive weight gain. I've only just found this crystal about 8 months now, and the problem showed up a little over a year ago. So she'll continue to wear this. She's got this now in the necklace she's got on until this issue is resolved. So other crystals that she wears now, that she's wearing them, but they're not in the right geometry, so it takes that much longer to get resolved, is this here. This is citrine. It's treated quartz, treated clear quartz. This sort of yellow big stone. And the other one is this is blue agate. You see that? This is the best geometry I can find at the moment, and it's for her allergies. So it's taken a long time to fix. And if I could find someone that could get me these crystals in the right geometry, we will be able to address those particular issues sooner. So the hormone that operates the allergies is also the same one that's responsible, is also the same one that will address things like rheumatoid arthritis and the reproductive, if you have issues with the reproductive organs, it's this one. So like I said, Grace had early onset of puberty, so what I've done is really slowed it down, and until I find the right geometry for that crystal, it would just take that much longer to fix. So I'm hoping someone is listening to this that can give me a specified geometry for this and for the clear quartz. These are very brittle, so it's better to shape them and then heat treat them, because they just fall apart otherwise. So these, believe it or not, this is the solution that I sourced and implement to solve the most impossible problem ever. Okay, so but don't worry, I am going to talk about how they work, the principles behind them and the mechanisms behind them. So okay, we'll talk about the glass beads. I'll talk about bring the glass beads first, because I described the crystals just now. Let me just describe the beads, right? So, oh, hang on, I need my camera. Right, let me just describe the glass beads. So this particular set she wore over the course of the summer, last summer. You can see there is a lot of yellow. Just, I'm trying to see. There's a lot of yellow. This is it's like yellow with black stripes. Some of these crystals are faceted, and you can see crystals. No, these are the glass balls. Sorry, these are glass beads, right? You can see some of them. She wore them so much that the colors rubbed off. Right, so that's the other thing I would like to get someone that would supply me with glass beads that the color doesn't rub up so quickly and so easily. Look here, can you see the purple? You got purple faceted beads and purple smooth beads, and then you have blue and red beads as well. Like so, and then I've peppered them with the crystals. But these are the beads. These are the beads that she wore, a combination of colors and a combination of faceted and smooth beads. Okay, for last summer she wore 5 rows. I think these are 5, isn't it? She wore them all together at the same time, right? And these colors are Grace's consciousness light energy colors. They represent her light energy colors and intensity. Okay, so looking at these now, they represent not just the shade but also the intensity. Look, this one is, I've actually put this, I'll open up this button. Use a button because it's easier to put it on and take it off, kid. Right, you notice I have about 3 rows of let me just make sure that I'm right-handed, that the camera stays still. So you got 3 rows of the yellow beads, right? And then you've got a single row of just purple, and there's a little bit of purple in this necklace as well. So a little bit of purple here, and then you've got one sort of row of blue and red alternating beads. These colors, like I said before, represent Grace's light energy, her consciousness light energy colors. So from here, you might be able to deduce, I don't know, that her brightest intensity is the yellow color, followed by the purple, and then these blue and red is her low intensity color. So actually an increase in the amount of yellow, the yellow and black one, is to represent the intensity of that color within her consciousness. And Grace has 4 colors. She has 4 colors within her consciousness light energy in varying amount of intensity, and that is what I have tried to represent with these. I can stop this now. Okay, I think so she could have had more of the yellow and black. She could have had more of the yellow and black, but it just would have been impractical. It just would have been impractical just because she's got a small neck. There's only so much. Look, if I put all of these on at once, at the same time, it's a lot to walk around with. And like I said, she had to wear this night and day, and I took them off for her bath, just because I used metal wire and it would just rust and break, you know, and snap off. I took them off for her bath, and she put them back on to sleep. She had them all day, and she wore this for about a month. And which is why we did it over summer, because to wear this night and day over the course of a month would have been tricky, because school probably wouldn't have allowed her to wear this many beads and crystals on her all day at school. And saying that, the school have been good, because she would normally wear like a single row of beads, because I used that single row to hold most of these other crystals that she wears now, you know, because I said the reflux. She's still got reflux. She's still allergic, until I find someone that can supply me with the sort of crystals that I want. Until then, you know, she's still wearing the crystals for those particular hormones. Okay, so how does this work? Let me have a quick time check. So in chapter 10, I said that the brain is a hormone factory and makes all kinds of hormones from tiny crystal particles, right? In chapter 6, I said, should I take this off? I'm just conscious. In chapter 6, I described that crystals had an electromagnetic energy. They had the magnetic charge with electrons on them. Let me bring that bit back out. Ouch. This one. Yeah. So in chapter 6, I talked about gemstones, in particular quartz crystals, having E+ ions, having positive electrons. Quartz crystals have positive electrons. It's been put on there, and they remain within the electromagnetic charge. Talked about this in chapter 6. And I also said that the way to get these E+ out was to apply a charge. Okay? And then also in chapter 6, I said that these E+ combine with a solute to make hormones. And that's when I said in chapter 10 that the brain used tiny crystal particles with plasma as the solute to make hormones, right? Chapter 9, I said there are hormones for all sorts of things within the body. Hormones to move, hormones to make you move smoothly. So the hormones are used to build cells, as well as these other functionalities, such as the pathways, such as the brain pathways. They use to build brain pathways like a highway of electrical signals, electrical highways, if you like, a highway for electrical impulses and signals, as well as cells for the body. So the hormones build the cells, and the hormones builds the highway to transport the messages to the cells, right, in the body. Okay, and so that's why the body has, that's why I said the brain, and the brain is a hormone factory, just producing all kinds of hormones to either build cells or to build highways and messages, types of messages that gets used by the body. Okay, right. So that's the function of the body. And here is Grace wearing, crystal, right? So this crystal has a electromagnetic energy, and it has a magnetic a field around it. So how does this electron get to the bit of her that needs it? And the answer is her inner being. Grace's inner being applies a charge to her skin. Yeah, applies a charge to her skin and draws out these positive electrons, and these positive electrons follow a path to the point, the area, location of the brain where that hormone is made, and these electrons are used to formulate more hormones. And now she's got hormone for all the functions of the body. And it's the same with the cells, to formulate more hormones that builds the cells. And now you can build cells. So if you remember this, the pineal gland, the inner being, what happened? If you remember this, this is the inner being inside the pineal gland, right? Forms an electrical box. This is the mind. And these in here, these are your goldfish tendrils. These are your goldfish tendrils hanging inside the pineal gland, connecting to this electrical box. These tendrils, I said to you, they are connected. They're like this. So this, if you remember, go and watch that video. These tendrils is like they're like this, 100,000 of them, connected to the rest of the body via the brain. I said that the inner being is not integrated. The inner being is not infused into our DNA. The inner being is not infused in our DNA, but the inner being is connected to every part of the body. The inner being is the operator in the control room. So the inner being is connected via this. The inner being, the inner consciousness, right? Including the skin. So the inner being from here sends an electrical impulse like this to the surface, to the skin. She's wearing a necklace. Take one of these. She's wearing a necklace. This necklace has a magnetic field around it. If you apply a charge to this field, you will draw out the electrons. Great. Oh, this one even hasn't got the crystal in it. It's the crystal. You will, if you apply a charge to the skin, you will draw out the electrons of this particular crystal, and they will, when I say and, they will follow a path. They don't magically follow a path on their own. That charge, because electrons are charged, they follow the path of the charge. These electrons are positively charged. The electrical impulse is negatively charged. So it is directed. What's that noise? I heard a noise. So the electrons are directed to, could be this way, could be that way, along the skin to the area of the brain where the hormones are produced. And the only person that can do that is the inner being, the operator in the control room. The brain, with its management system, cannot do that on its own. Because this is a special activity. I said, when there's something that's not functioning or working very well in a normal size factory, the operator can go in there and make adjustment or fix things. That's what Grace's inner being did. The agreement with my inner being, mind you. Right? So I'm wondering if I should stop before my timer runs out. Yes. So that was the crystal, how the crystals are used to formulate more hormones, build more cells, therefore build more pathways for the body, okay? Now let's describe what's behind the glass beads. So I've said, let's go back to my DNA diagram. Where is it? Oh, there it is. I've said that, even in this video, I said that your light energy contains consciousness intelligence. Your light energy is the ink that writes to your DNA. And mental issues are caused by your light energy not properly writing to a DNA. And I've got here defective DNA. Where is it? And in fact, you don't need to have a defective DNA. You can have a learning difficulty if you have a standard DNA, no genetic defect at all. Because the ink that's writing, the ink which is consciousness, light energy that writes to your DNA is being restricted. And like I said, it is restricted because the surface of this mesh filter limiter is too reflective, too shiny. So it reflects most of the light back. So how did we solve this problem? Obviously, I solved the problem with the beads, but how did that work? Okay? To help explain this, I just thought this, oh my God, the video is not recording. To help explain this, I am going to take a side step and explain two principles that hasn't been discovered yet, not that I could find anywhere on the internet. Right, the first one is color on or inside a smooth glass surface carries a specific light frequency. So here I've got a brown bottle. This is I like Supermalt, so the color of this brown bottle carries a specific light frequency. Here I've got, this is a green wine bottle. That's a song, isn't it? It's a green wine bottle. So the light frequency from this green bottle is different to the light frequency from this brown bottle, and is also different. So this is a jam jar, and I've painted it yellow. Right, I've painted it yellow, and again, this is just regular paint. Again, this yellow part will emit a certain light frequency, and that light frequency, because of this color, is different to the brown and to the green. How is this? Right, this is because when light enters a material, it vibrates the atom. The atom vibrates at a certain frequency. If the material is reflective, then the light is reflected outwards. So the color of the material carries a certain frequency. So let me try and explain that again. When light enters a colored object, it vibrates the atom of that object at a certain frequency, right? Like the atoms, they start to move and vibrate at a certain frequency. The color determines the frequency that those atoms vibrate at. The thing is, now if that object is glass, a reflective material, in particular like glass, then it will reflect, those atoms will reflect that frequency outwards. If this pen is black, light shines into it, the atoms are vibrating. This is a plastic pen. The atoms are vibrating at a certain frequency, but because it's plastic and not glass, it is not reflecting. It's not reflecting that light energy to the same degree as if it was glass. So I'm saying glass reflects the exact same light frequency that it gets in, those atoms reflects it back out, but other materials don't reflect. They're not reflective enough to reflect the light frequency out. So that's the first one. Look here, I've got this as well. This, can you see that? This is a glass ball. It is faceted, as in it's not smooth. It's got different shape on it. Now this glass ball, right, is clear, obviously. A glass in this shape, right, with a not in this shape, a faceted glass has a more concentrated and directional reflection of that light frequency. So a smooth glass goes out everywhere, just it goes, there's no direction. It just, hang on, I had a diagram for this. Right here. So here there's smooth glass here, and there's smooth glass there, and in the middle, the blue bit, well, let me bring it forward. Right. Smooth glass here, smooth glass there. In the middle, this is faceted glass, right? So these arrows shows the direction of the light frequency being reflected outwards, right, on the smooth glass. And you can see for the faceted one, the light frequency has a more converged and concentrated direction. So what I was trying to say, yeah, so this is more scattered. The direction of light frequency outward is more scattered, and this one, it's more converged and concentrated. Right, I'll put this back and just stop for a minute because I don't know what comes next. Okay, no, that's it. That was what I wanted to explain. Actually, that was what I wanted to explain. That's my first principle about light frequency in glass. Okay? Light enters it and it reflects out. Different colors determine different value of the light frequency. Okay? The second principle I want to explain is when the frequency of light, no, hang on, how did I write here? When the frequency of light inside an enclosed space with a reflective I'll explain it, but in my head I've just got words. When the frequency of light inside an enclosed space, and the enclosed space has a reflective surface, when the frequency of light inside that space matches the frequency of light around, just outside that space, the shiny reflective surface diminishes or reduces significantly. Okay? Does that make sense? So the frequency of, look at this bottle. There's light outside this bottle. This bottle is sealed, which means that there is now a specific frequency contained within the bottle. Now, if the frequency of light outside the immediate vicinity of the bottle matches the frequency of light inside the bottle, then the shiny surface of the bottle, the smooth reflective surface of the bottle will diminish. This is not the same as singing so loudly you crack the bottle. It's not. It's pitch, pitch, pitch. Okay? It's not the same as that. I mean, this is about removing the shininess or reflexivity, is that a word? I don't know, of the glass itself. And that will happen if the frequency of light outside it, the immediate space, matches that inside it. I hope that's clear. I hope that makes sense. So, really, what I did over the summer was to match. So okay, before I go there, just to say that if you remember, I said Grace had a restricted light energy, consciousness light energy, caused by a very shiny mesh filter limiter, right? Mesh filter limiter is in an enclosed space inside the shiny surface is in an enclosed space inside the mind box, but more importantly, inside the pineal gland. The pineal gland is sealed. Okay? So what I was doing was what I did was to match the frequency of light inside the pineal gland with the frequency of light outside Grace. And the light that I was trying to match was not Grace. The light that I targeted was Grace's inner being, not Grace. Grace has a restrictive inner being. Her light, bits of it, I can't see it. I can't see consciousness light. I only dialogue with my inner being. The light that I'm trying to match was Grace's inner being. The fullness of her consciousness light. Match that, right? So what I did was to surround Grace with glass beads that emitted light frequencies around her neck. The more beads I added, I increased the light frequency because she had a particularly bright yellow. She had to have it. She had a particularly bright yellow consciousness energy, bright yellow color shade within her consciousness light. So I surrounded her with this light. I surrounded her with this, with excess light frequency. Add more colors and more light. That increased it around her. But what really did the job was her inner being. Her inner being took the information again from the skin. Again, connected to the skin, right? Her inner being took the information, the light frequency data from her skin. That frequency, by surrounding Grace with this much light around her from the glass beads are just reflecting light towards her skin. And as you know, if you're outside, the skin absorbs light rays, sun rays, like light energy from the sun. So I was just doing that with the colors. Surround her with light frequencies from the beads. The skin absorbs it. We know that. UV rays. And her inner being took that information from the skin, the data from the skin. Inner being operator in the control room takes the data from the skin and targets it towards the pineal gland. So it wasn't just me putting this in Grace that was able to correct it, because this, as you can see, it's going everywhere, scattering everywhere. Her inner being took that data and surrounded her pineal gland with it until the point where the frequency of light outside matched that was inside here, and therefore now that reflective surface, see, it matched that was inside here, and therefore now that reflective surface diminished, reduced. Reflectivity, I don't know what the word is, that reduced. And so now Grace that's attached to the motor functions of the body via your spinal cord and everything else, infuses the body, graces consciousness, light, energy, infusing the body, graces consciousness, light, energy, which is also the ink that writes to her DNA, is now flowing fully as expected, as designed. Her consciousness, light, energy is no longer restricted, and now she is writing across her DNA as she should be doing what she should, giving the brain, the management system, the instructions that it needs. Okay? Oh, so giving the emotion management system the instructions that it needs. Can I stop for a minute? So Grace's consciousness, light, energy now flows as designed, as target, through the mesh filter limiter and infuse the brain. The ink that not writes, infuse the brain and infuse the DNA. It's the ink that not writes to the DNA. So what have we got now? Now we've got the extra hormones that makes the cells, the extra hormones, so hang on, yeah, the extra hormones that makes the cells for the emotion sense, as well as the spinal cord, detect and response, hormone producing those. The extra hormones that builds the pathways, the neural pathways around the brain and the body, around the spinal cord, going to the senses. Right? So, and then you have consciousness, light, energy now fully infusing the DNA. So, who builds these? Her inner being. This building of the pathways, of the spinal cord, of the emotion sense, is an inner being activity. I said again in my Adam and Eve's video that it's the inner being that builds the baby in the womb with fusion energy. So the inner being, you've produced cells, the inner being builds the cells. Fusion energy video tells you the different ways that the inner being uses, that pure consciousness uses fusion energy to build and fix things. So the cells of the pineal gland, the cells of the spinal cord, and the cells of the emotion sense, rebuilt or repaired or built up, the pathways rebuilt, the impaired pathway rebuilt or repaired. I don't know what he did. It was built from the cells that was generated from the hormones that was produced using the crystals, using the electrons from the crystals that are placed on Grace. Should I say that again? Will I say it properly this time? The pathways and the spinal cord was rebuilt by pure consciousness, Grace's inner being, using cells that was formulated from the hormones that was produced by the brain, the extra hormones that was produced by the brain when new positive electrons were directed to that location in the brain from the crystals that I put around her, put on her. The electrons that are within the electromagnetic field. And the other issue was to diminish the reflectiveness or reflexivity of the mesh filter limiter by surrounding her with light, with her consciousness, with her, not her consciousness, with her inner beings, light, energy, shade, and intensity. The inner being did the rest. The inner being did the rest. There's absolutely no way the brain did this on its own. The inner being, the pure consciousness part of Grace, did this. And this is the way he did it. I call him a he because she's so tomboyish, and also my inner being said it's a he. So this same method, this same method applies if there was a physical deformity. So Grace didn't have a physical deformity, but this same method applies because it's the inner being building cells. A deformed child, a person, has an inner being that uses fusion energy to build cells. But there has to be a kind of agreement that you're going to do this, you're going to be this for so long, and then you'll be allowed. There's a reason why, I don't know what the reason is, why people are the way they are. In Grace's case, I needed to make this discovery, and so now Grace can go on and achieve the full potential of what she's come here to do. What I was trying to say is the same method applies to physical deformity, but it just takes longer because the number of cells to replicate is a heck of a lot more, right? You're trying to replace every single cell in a fully grown body is a lot more. So the process can take at least 2 years to complete. Yeah. In Grace's case, she wore it for a month, and the solution came about. As in, we started to note the solution 4 months. 4 months, was it about 4 months later? 4 months later. I hope, and this is because she didn't have a physical deformity. So in any case, I hope you can see and how amazing and mind-blowing this is. I hope you're with me, just like wow. I don't know what words to use because to me, this was an impossibility. And yet, look at Grace. Look at Grace now. Anyway, in part two, anyway, part two will be showing some of the videos I put together about, part two is about Grace. Well, this is about Grace too, but what I'm trying to say here is part two, you will now see Grace as she was before, some of the videos I took, and then you see her, you know, some of how she is now. This is the end of this video, and I'll see you in the next video.